Hey guys, today school started, getting towards the end of the summer. We wanted to film a little winterization video. I know a lot of you guys are paying to have your boat winterized at the shop. It's a fairly simple process. We're going to walk you through it today. We're not only going to do the winterization, but we're going to do the overall fall maintenance that we do to our boats every year to get them ready for the spring so that, you know, when the spring hits, ice is off, we can drop our boats in right away. It'll be all ready to go. So the things you're going to need, we're going to cover how to do an oil change. Behind me is a 2005 Super Launch 21V that we picked up for our project boat. Make sure to hit like and subscribe as we transform this boat this winter. What we're going to do now is we're going to do an oil change on it. We're going to replace the impeller, which we like to do every season. We're going to get antifreeze in the motor, winterize it so that it's safe here in Minnesota. It gets super cold, obviously, so we like to put antifreeze in the system rather than just get it dry. I know some of you in the southern states, it's okay to just leave it dry. You don't typically get freezing weather, but we like to run antifreeze through the whole system to make sure that we don't have any issues. So with this boat, it takes 5.5 quarts of oil. We picked up some oil. We got an oil filter. We got a new impeller for the water pump, along with an impeller puller. This isn't necessary, but it makes the process quite a bit easier. Look down in the description. We'll make sure to add a link to this. All these parts, you can grab them, pick them up online. We got a fake lake here, so we can hook a hose up to the bottom of the boat at the raw water intake, and we can run it off a hose. Some newer boats may have a hose connection in the engine compartment. You can absolutely hook it to that, obviously. It's usually a filter. It's usually clear with a hose attachment to it. So if you have one of those, hook it right to that. We got a set of funnels. We always like to add seafoam. We like to leave our tanks full with non-oxy, and then we'll add seafoam based on how many gallons of gas the boat has. So we have some seafoam, and we like to add that in while we're running the engine to warm it up before an oil change to make sure it gets through the entire fuel system. And then we have 6 gallons of RV antifreeze. And again, once we're done here, the boat will be full of antifreeze. It'll be winterized. So all we do in the spring is connect the battery, drop it in the lake, and we're ready to go. RV antifreeze is not harmful to anything in the lake. So, you can just leave it in the system and pump it into the lake. We'll get to the oil change here first and show you how to do that, and we'll keep the process moving. Thanks for watching. So step one on getting this boat winterized and oil changed is finding the raw water intake. In front of the camera, right there, you can see a brass raw water intake. We're going to hook up our fake lake to that with a hose, and when we're ready, we'll turn that hose on and get that running, and then we can go ahead and warm up the engine to get the oil moving a little bit and get the oil drained and get it changed. We'll also use that same raw water intake to get the antifreeze in the system as well, and we'll show you that here shortly. We're going to go ahead and put seafoam in based on how many gallons of fuel we have in here. Again, we like to put non-oxy full tank in here, and then we'll add seafoam, according to the directions based on how much we should use. All right, we're about to get the oil change started here. We've got the fake lake under the boat hooked up to the raw water intake. We've got the hose hooked up to that. We went ahead and removed the sun pad, the engine dividers, and the beauty cover over the intake. This is not necessary. This is just so you guys can clearly see what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and turn the water on. We'll get the boat started. We'll get the boat up to temp, and then we'll go ahead and turn it off and get the oil drained. After that, we'll replace the oil filter and fill it back up with oil, and we'll be on to step 2 of this winterization process. All right, we got our engine warmed up. We ran it on the fake lake for about 10 minutes till the temperature got to temp. We have our drain hose right here. We've hooked up a hose to our topsider vacuum pump. And we're just gonna open up the top of the engine here to make sure that we don't get like a vacuum stopping us from pulling it in. And then we're just gonna go ahead and pump the oil out of the engine. I don't know if you can see it's coming through here until we get about 5.5 quarts. And then we'll go ahead and change the filter and put some new oil in the engine. And we'll be on to run an antifreeze through the system. We've gone ahead and pumped it until it sucks air. That's when we know we've got all the oil out of it. There's just kind of barely any more running in here. And you can tell it's got a good amount of oil in there. So we're gonna go ahead and unhook this. We'll cap this back off, swap the filter, put the 5.5 quarts of oil we need. This is an Inmar 325, which is in a ton of boats back in the 2005 kind of time range. So if you have this same engine, all these parts should work for you as far as the oil filter, the oil quantity and things like that. But always check your manual and make sure. Our next step is to pull the oil filter off. One way that we found to keep the boat clean is to use like a Ziploc bag, put it around the oil filter, pull it off, and then all the oil in the filter kind of drops into the bag, and that way we don't get boat or oil all over the carpet. We got the oil filter out. We're gonna go ahead and fill up the new one with half full with oil, and obviously wipe the seal with a little bit of oil to ensure we get a good seal on the boat. So we're using the jug that we used to fill the oil filter so that we know we'd then have 4 quarts of oil in the system. We'll add a 5th, get the boat started, check the oil, and then add the last half as we go just to make sure it's in the recommended range. So we've got the oil change complete. Our next project is to replace the impeller, which is in this little black box right here, kind of underneath the muffler. We're going to take the plate off of that. We'll get the impeller out, put the new one in, and then our last step is to get the antifreeze in the system. Again, we're not going to pull drain plugs and drain the block or anything like that. We're just going to keep antifreeze into the system the whole time, all winter. That's what we like to do here in Minnesota to make sure that we don't have any issues. Now we're going to go ahead and use our Sea-Dog impeller puller to get the impeller out. Again, this isn't necessary. You could probably get it out with some screwdrivers, things like that, but in my opinion, this just makes it easier to do. And if you're going to have your boat for a while and do this stuff on your own, it's worth the $50 to buy tool that'll just save you some time. All right, we got the impeller out. This one looks like it's in pretty good shape overall. But here in Minnesota we have short summers. And anything you can do to never have issues with your boat in the summer on a nice day or holiday or something like that is worth it. So we're just going to confirm that these numbers match and we got the right part. And then we'll throw a new impeller in along with the new gasket and get this put back together. Putting some of this lube on here, just make sure it slides in and out of there easy so you don't have to fight to get it back in. Never mind, I got it. You got the impeller back in. We're going to go ahead and put this gasket on, and then we should be good to go. All right, we got the impeller swapped. We got it all tightened up. There was a black panel right here on this 2005 Supra that we took off so that we could kind of reach around this muffler and get at it easier. Obviously, you could take the muffler off too, but we were able to get at it just reaching around here. All right, we ran the engine to make sure the thermostat opened up until it got up to temperature. We got our RV antifreeze ready. We rigged up this garbage can with some hose fittings to a hose. We're going to hook that up to our Faka Lake, and then we're going to turn the engine back on and just run it until we start to see antifreeze coming out of the exhaust. At a good amount of antifreeze coming out of the exhaust will tell us that the engine is full of antifreeze. And if you do not have a heater core, that's really it. That's all you got to do. But since we have a heater on this boat, we're also going to unhook the heater hoses, blow that out with an air compressor, and put antifreeze in that system as well. I've had those things break on me in the past, and that just ensures that that system is completely full of antifreeze as well, and you won't have any issues with a broken heater core. All right, we ran the boat with antifreeze. We let it run out of the exhaust. You can see it dripping out of the exhaust. It's pink. You can see it run out for, we let it run out for a couple minutes. Made sure that, again, the engine temp was up there so that the thermostat was open, and then we shut it off. So now we have antifreeze throughout the entire system. The only thing that I've had happen to me before that I'm a little bit worried about is the heater core. Sometimes the antifreeze doesn't get enough of it, doesn't get way up there, and so you can have issues. So what we found, and what we're going to do here next is unhook both hoses that hook up to the engine here, that pump to the heater core, and we're going to blow air through them. That'll get all the water out, hopefully. Then we'll put antifreeze through one end until it drips out the other end, and then hook it back up. Again, our goal is to have this boat ready to go in the spring so that there's no drain plugs missing, everything's hooked up, and it's ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and tackle the heater core, and then really all we have is to stabilize the fuel with our seafoam, and then we like to charge the battery fully and then just unhook it and leave it in the boat. We've had good luck with that, and they tend to last a while when we do that. good.
Yep.
So now we got our compressor hose here. We're just gonna stick it in the hose and just spray it out. Is it coming out?
Yep.
Just air now?
Nope. Almost.
It's good?
Really good. Yep.
We're gonna go pour some coolant in here until it comes out the other side. You hold that too.
Yep.
If it doesn't happen to come out, then we'll just push some air through there again just to kind of force it through the system. All right, we're gonna go ahead and just put some coolant, just some air through the system, get it to force its way out.
There we go.
We're getting pure coolant coming through the other side. So we're just gonna go ahead, hook these hoses back up, and we'll be done with the engine portion. All right, we got this 2005 Supra 21V all winterized. Again, just to recap, step one, we hooked up the Fake Lake with water. We ran the engine until it warmed up so that the oil was warm so that we could get the oil drained. We used our extraction pump to suck the oil out of the drain hose. Again, all the parts and everything we used will be in the description so you guys can find it, find links and get you what you need. So we extracted the oil. Once we got all the oil out, we went ahead and swapped out the oil filter and filled the engine back up with oil, hooked it back up to the water again, ran it. Checked the oil to make sure we had the right amount of oil in there. This boat, with a filter replacement, takes 5.5 quarts. It's an Inboard 325. It's a very common motor in this range, so even if you don't have a Supra, it was used in a lot of different boats back then. After that, our goal was to get the antifreeze into the system. So we again ran it on water until it heated up to operating temperature to make sure that thermostat opens up. And then we went ahead and hooked up our bucket with antifreeze to the Fake Lake instead of the hose. And we ran antifreeze through the system so that it was dripping out the exhaust for about 2 minutes. There's no real timeline. You just want to make sure you get good antifreeze coming out of the exhaust system with very little water. And then you can be sure that it's full of antifreeze. After that, we wanted to ensure that the heater core had antifreeze in it and it did not have water. Again, I've winterized them similar to this before and had cracked heater core because the antifreeze didn't get up all the way up there. So we unhooked the hoses from the engine, blew it out with air to get all the water out, poured a little bit of antifreeze, as much as we could in there, and then kind of pushed the antifreeze through the system with the compressor and hooked everything back up. We added seafoam to the fuel. Again, we use 91 octane. Around here we have non-oxy, so it shouldn't degrade much. And then we hooked up the battery. So as soon as the battery's charged, hooked up the battery to the charger, I should say. As soon as the battery's charged, we'll pull it off the charger, unhook it from the boat, clean the boat, cover it up, and we'll be ready to go for next year. Again, we didn't pull any drain plugs. We didn't disconnect any hoses. So as soon as we're ready to go this spring, this boat, you put the plug in, hook up the battery, drop it in the lake, and it's ready to go. This boat is going to be our winter project boat. If you haven't watched any of our projects, we've done a 2006 X2 as well as a 2006 Malibu 247. Hit up our channel and on YouTube and check those videos out. Make sure to hit like and subscribe on this video so you can catch the next series as we take apart this boat and install a killer ballast system and a stereo and who knows what else we might tackle. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps you guys tackle this stuff on your own and save some cash and some time.